Thank you very much. Diolch yn fawr iawn. Thank you for inviting me to this extremely interesting meeting because, of course, there are all sorts of meetings and committees which are going on to talk about what is going to happen next. We don't have many facts yet, but I think one of the most important things that we need to do is look at the different sectors and how it will actually affect people. And one of the issues that we are addressing today is uncertainty. And for many of us who are passionate Europeans, of course, this is a very difficult time. We've had the opportunities, many of us have grown up or spent most of our life with the opportunity that the EU provided to travel freely, to study, to work in other countries, to learn languages, and just as importantly, to form partnerships and friendships. And I believe very strongly in the EU motto, unity in diversity, because I've always been able to define my Welshness much more clearly in a European context. Coming from a small bilingual country, other languages and cultures were never a threat to Welsh identity, but enhanced Welsh identity. And of course, that's one of the functions of culture as well. And I love the story that was often told by my friend, the late Welsh historian, Professor Gwynalf Williams. And he said that it was a European meeting that first declared Wales a nation. It was the Council of Constance in 1415, which was a time of great upheaval across Europe. There were two competing popes, and in this council meeting, the English delegation proposed that instead of voting on the basis of dioceses or provinces, it should be done by nationes, the nations. And the French delegate immediately jumped up and objected to the inclusion of Wales within the English nation. The Welsh, he said, are not part of England, but are themselves a nation. And we are a European nation, of course, and we'll remain a European nation even outside the European Union. But while the UK will believe in the EU rather than Europe, the certainty that membership of this union of 28 member states has given us will be lost. Now, of course, I've always argued since I was first elected to the Parliament that the EU is made up of many more countries and cultures and languages than the 28 member states and the 24 official languages. And I've worked consistently to give Welsh and other minority languages a higher profile and to get recognition for all of the cultures and languages in Europe. I didn't succeed or fully succeed. We had some successes in that, but certainly outside the EU, despite that, we will be much poorer. And I know that for the arts and the culture sector in Wales, the loss of the potential loss of freedom of movement is the biggest threat that they face. I was very impressed to see that the Arts Council of Wales was one of the first to carry out a very detailed survey of organisations in Wales on the impact of leaving the EU. It had responses from 73 different organisations and bodies, and it really focused the minds, as we all have to now, in a very positive way, and prioritise those things that we really need to retain, the things that are important to different sectors. And in Wales, of course, we have a very vibrant and active arts and culture movement. We have fantastic venues like the Millennium Centre in Cardiff. We have the sports venues with concerts. We have internationally renowned festivals like the Llangollen Music Eisteddfod, the big annual festival there, and our National Eisteddfod, which again is a poetry, music and literature event that travels around Wales every year. And we like to call ourselves a musical nation, and we are, of course. But while everyone has been focusing up until now on the impact on the economy and the impact on exports, not many people have started to even begin to consider the impact on the arts and culture, because, of course, the cost of hosting tours or inviting guest artists would be increased if we didn't have free movement. The bureaucracy would increase, the cost for people travelling to different countries would increase, and all this at a time when we're still facing big cuts in public expenditure on the arts, so it's another blow. But it's not just an economic question, because over the years the EU has literally succeeded in tearing down walls and removing borders. And leaving the EU is going to create new barriers for artists and performers like everyone else. And what we really must resist is the perception that the EU is no longer open and welcoming and a good place to come in terms of arts and culture. We have to work to ensure that there isn't isolation. But it is economic as well, of course. 25 of the respondents in the Wales survey, as we've heard in other parts of the UK, have been partners in EU projects that had just under 5 million in direct funding. There are bids in at the moment for a further 7.5 million from different programmes by 21 organisations. And these are just the direct funding bids. These are not the benefit that's come from other community projects or big infrastructure projects. And we can well understand a possible reluctance to enter into partnership with UK partners now because of the uncertainty. But we have to look at what we can do and how we can influence events over the next few years. Because the arts and culture encourage engagement and bring communities together and help bring about social change, something we really need now following the referendum. We need a cultural movement against racism, against intolerance, and for inclusion. And I think that helping to develop a European citizenship would be a positive move in this respect. Now, there have been some proposals just recently. A lot of my constituents have emailed me and said that they want this. The debate is only just beginning, but I do believe that if the EU could adopt a model of citizenship or associate citizenship, whatever it might become, it would help social cohesion as well as solidarity. And I think that it links directly into the arts, because participation in cultural activities empowers people and helps create active citizenship as well. And for that reason, I think that we should be encouraging this debate very much across not just the UK, of course, but across Europe. Whether or not we'll be still participating in schemes like Creative Europe, Interreg, or the regional funds, we just don't know at the moment. And certainly I'll be pushing our government to get the best possible deal for our artists, possibly looking at a derogation, a cultural exemption for artists should we lose free movement in a future agreement. But also we need to be looking at the possibilities of new media, technology, all of the things that you know a lot more than I do about, which we should be promoting in the European Parliament and in government at all levels. We have a debate in Strasbourg next week on an EU policy for cultural and creative industries. So I think that it's very encouraging that the research suggests that 96% of people within the creative industries in the UK voted to remain in the EU. And I think that gives us a really strong and positive base on which to move forward, because we have to move forward. We have to do it in a very positive way. We can't ignore the strength of feeling. We can't ignore the impact that there's going to be. And we have to make sure that the voice of the arts and the creative industries and the cultural sector is not lost in the whole debate. And that's why I think it's so positive that you've organised this meeting today, and I look forward to our discussions.